this problem. The ruling elites in our developing world do not want to come under the rule of law. If the powerful are above law, that's how a country becomes eventually a banana republic. The difference, and I was looking at the rule of law index. If you look at Switzerland, Switzerland's rule of law index is 99.9%. Compare that to Nigeria, which has the greatest oil reserves in Africa. The rule of law index in Nigeria is 7%. So similarly, most of the poor countries are under 20%. And almost all the Western democracies are over 90%. So the difference is, just to why I came into politics was to bring the powerful, these two corrupt families. Both of them had been dismissed for corruption when I came into politics. Twice they were dismissed for corruption. So then started this struggle. It took me 22 years finally to succeed and come into government. Now, the biggest challenge I faced immediately was that all the mafias associated with these political mafias, they all resisted. They resisted our government the moment we tried to bring them, get them under law. And the more we tried, the more they ganged up. And these two main parties who had opposed each other for almost 30 years, now they ganged up and had a joint front against me. So what happens? I mean, we first, just to give you my 3.5 years in politics, I inherited a government which was bankrupt. We had the biggest current account deficit. And as a result, there was pressure on our currency because our reserves had shrunk to about 9 billion, which is four weeks of our imports. So from there, a bankrupt economy, we steadied the economy the first year. Second year, we were hit by COVID-19, like the whole world was. And so the 2 years, my second and third year, we were grappling with the situation of lockdown, not how to stop the spread of the virus and at the same time save your economy. And the lockdown affected the poor people the most. So we took a very unusual decision at the time. We refused to have a full lockdown. And we started having, what we call smart lockdowns to protect our poor people because there were daily wages. There were weekly people who relied on weekly wage. We had 70% of our workforce was in the informal sector. So had we locked down, we would have had starvation because we already started from a bankrupt economy. But in the end, that worked. And we saved our population from COVID. We had the lowest death rate in the subcontinent. We saved our economy. And so in our third and fourth year, we grew at 5.7% and 6%, which is in 17 years the highest growth rate. And, we had record exports by managing our economy in this difficult time. We managed to help the farmers. So anyway, the country was poised sort of for a higher growth rate. And this is all in the economic survey of Pakistan, which is published every year. If you have a chance to look at the figures, because the country was actually growing very quickly. We had a problem which the whole world was post-COVID, and that was the commodity super cycle, the energy prices going up. And then with Ukraine, they went up further. So grappling with this, trying to stop, imported inflation, which in UK you're facing exactly the same situation. So at that time, this conspiracy took place. What was this conspiracy? On 6th of March 22, the Undersecretary of State of the US, he meets the Pakistani ambassador in Washington. And, this is an official meeting. There were note takers on both sides. And he says that, look, if you there's a vote of no confidence coming. At this time, there was no vote of no confidence against me. And he said, if it succeeds against, if it doesn't succeed against me, in ousting me, then there will be consequences for Pakistan. But if it succeeds, then all will be forgiven. So this arrogant discourse takes place between the ambassador and this Donald Lu, who was the Under Secretary of State in Washington. I read this cipher. Now imagine, here I read this, that he's telling my ambassador, he's telling my ambassador to get rid of me, the Prime Minister. So, I'm a bit, like anyone would be taken aback. The next day, the vote of no confidence is tabled against me. And suddenly about 20 of our parliamentarians start meeting with the opposition. And then openly there was this horse trading taking place, horse trading, where roughly about $1 million were being dished out to buy our M&As. And so our government falls. But what happens after, subsequently, what happens? We are replaced by a government where 60% of the cabinet is on bail on corruption cases. And the two families that had been calling each other crooked and putting each other in jail and corruption cases unite against me, are brought into power, and they then try and suppress this movement because people spontaneously came out in the streets. First time it's happened in our history. So people came out in the streets protesting against this regime change. And they then used brute force. Pakistan hasn't, under democratic government, they have never experienced what in the last 6 months happened. They used, on 25th of May, we had a peaceful protest. The police went into people's houses, thousands were put in jail. There were women, families, children were, because in our protest, families participate. First time ever so much women participate in our rallies. So they tear gas them, they beat them up, and this is all on video. So that happened on the 25th May. But what they thought was that would scare people, it actually had the opposite effect. So rather than our movement after post my government going, rather than it sort of slowing down, the movement got stronger and stronger. And there were two sets of by-elections, one in July and then one earlier this month. So both by-elections were swept by us. By my political party. So since then what has happened is that this reign of terror is taking place in our country. There's a clampdown on media, unprecedented. There are cases on me, there are terrorism cases. There's a terrorist, they came to arrest me on a terrorism case, and the case is that one of my close aides was subjected to custodial torture. He was sexually abused. He was stripped naked. So